Welcome to How to Be a Money Magpie, the podcast from MoneyMagpie.com. I'm Jasmine Birtles, the founder of MoneyMagpie, and this podcast series looks at all sorts of aspects of money, from freebies to investing, and from holiday tips to how to make money on the side. And today's programme is rather special because we have an experienced and successful investor with us who has his own Stock Tips YouTube channel with well over 5,000 subscribers, and he's just 12 years old. Yes, that's right, Zach Cox, the young investor, as he's called, rightly, is just 12 years old, and he's very happy to invest in and talk about all kinds of stocks. So welcome to the podcast, Zach. Hello there.
Thanks so much for having me on.
So tell me, how many subscribers do you have on YouTube?
I'm at about 6.4 thousand on YouTube and almost 25,000 on Twitter.
Brilliant. Gosh, that's phenomenal. And I think, as far as I can see, because having looked at your stock tips on YouTube, this is because your tips are really interesting, really useful to actual investors. Do you find that you have quite a lot of adults contacting you through YouTube, asking your advice on stock picking, etc.?
Yeah, especially on my free Discord server, I have a lot of people on there who almost got over 500 members now, and they'll ask me quite a lot of questions about what stocks they're looking into, what stocks I'm looking into. Sometimes they'll give me an idea for a stock and I'll look into it, or sometimes they'll mention a stock and I don't like that stock. But yeah, they often ask what my opinion on a stock is or what my opinion is not on a stock.
So you say that they might give you ideas for stocks to look into. So when you say look into, what does that actually involve? Do you just sort of go on Google and look it up and read up about the company, or do you get the company reports? How do you look into a company?
So if I'm just looking into a company, obviously I don't want to waste all my time looking into it and I don't want to invest in it. So at the start, I'll go on Google maybe, just see what the standard financials are of the company and what the product is. If I'm interested in the company and I think the product's pretty cool, then I'll probably go and read some of the filings, watch the earnings videos or the earnings calls and look what their revenue is, future potential revenue, how much cash they've got on the balance sheet, etc.
You see, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, you've mentioned quite a few clever words here. And I mean it, clever. You've talked about, the earnings, you're looking at the financials. This is clever stuff, particularly for somebody who's still at school. So explain to me for a moment, what do you mean by the financials? How do you work out the financials?
Yeah, so if you're a newbie investor, it's pretty easy. You can go on Google or Seeking Alpha or one of those websites and just see how much cash a company's got and what they're making per year. So for an example, Amazon or something like that makes like $100,000 a minute. So you could just go on Google and see what they're making. So there's 4 quarters in a year in the stock market. You can see what they were making last quarter and you can work out what they're going to make for the whole year. Or if they're a really fast growth stock, you can work out how much they're going to go on. So if the stock's run out for the year, you'll just add 15% onto your numbers and work out what their future revenues are going to be.
Brilliant. Yeah, that sounds great. And then you're talking about earnings videos. So the companies produce their own videos about their earnings, do they?
Yeah, so if you were to go online and maybe look up, Facebook Investor Relations page, you can go on there and it'll say audio recording of earnings call. Just click on that and you can play the earnings call, and then you'll have Mark Zuckerberg and his team talking about what they've just made in that quarter, what they think is going to happen going forward. It's really good to listen to the earnings call, or even if you're just listening to one, it's so good because you understand the company and you kind of get a gist of the management team by listening to one of those calls.
This is all very sensible advice, and I'm just thinking, where did you learn about this? Did you learn it at school or from your parents? How did you find out about it? How to do this research?
Yes, I kind of taught myself. None of my parents are investors. I actually got my dad into investing after I did this for about a month because I thought he should start investing.
Quite right.
He kind of invests in some of the stuff I invest in, but he takes some, you invest in different kinds of stocks sometimes. But I think, the internet's such an amazing place. There's so much information on it and you can learn so much for free.
Well, true. So did you do it on YouTube? How did you get interested in it in the first place?
Yeah, so it's kind of like my broker at the moment, Trading 212, they run an ad campaign. I heard the stock market before, never really looked into it, but I thought I'd give it a go. And that's really how I started investing, just because of an ad campaign. And I think it just shows that it's not really any longer kind of the major like traditional brokerages attracting newbie investors. It's kind of the Robin Hoods of the world.
Absolutely. So it's a platform called Trading 212, did you say?
Yeah, Trading 212.
Right, so they did an ad campaign, and that just got you interested. So you thought, this investing thing, let's have a look. So you then just did what people do and go on Google and YouTube and whatever, and you literally taught yourself through that way.
Yeah, basically.
And what about your friends at school? Do any of them invest now, having seen you invest successfully? Is this something, have you got an investing club at school or anything, or are you the only one?
I actually got one of my friends, Ollie, into it. But I think he put like £40 and I showed him some good stocks or something. I thought he obviously only put £40 in, so he was willing to go like mega high risk. For Ollie there was nothing to lose, and he put into one of the riskiest stocks. And I think he's up something like 40% now.
Wow, that's a pretty good first dipping your toe into the waters. Speaking of which, how much did you put in at the start when you saw these ads and you did a bit of reading around and you thought, oh, go on then, I'll do a bit of investing. How much money did you put in?
Originally, I put in £40. Obviously, my portfolio is now worth a lot more than that. I think it's worth around 1,500 at the moment, and I put in, out of that 1,500, I put in £668. So obviously I've been adding to it over time. But yeah, I initially started with £40, so that was really just to put my toes in the water.
Marvellous. And when was it that you started? I mean, you're 12 now. Was it just a few months ago, or were you 10 or 11 when you first started doing this?
Yeah, I think it was probably around April time, 2020.
So not long, and you already have your own YouTube channel, and you seem to me to be, very well versed in how to do basic investing. And what interests me is that you really, to my mind, you have no fear of this. Whereas honestly, I would say millions of adults are actually afraid of investing in the stock market. What would you say to them?
I would say the stock market, from an outsider's point of view, looks like a rich man's game. Only the rich man can make money. And look, if you don't want to put in the time and effort to fully research a stock, put it in something like the S&P 500 index fund. That's going to, instead of grossing you 0.01% in your bank account, that's going to make you probably around 8 to 10% per year on your money. It's really safe. If there's a crash, and crashes usually last around 3 months, by putting, I don't know, £1,000 or £10,000 into an S&P 500 index fund now, you'll be making yourself £1,000 a year in extra income. Carry on adding to that instead of maybe putting it into some savings account, which is grossing you less than 1%. You can retire earlier, and you won't have to work as long, because you'll have all this money saved up.
So you're essentially advocating index tracking funds, mentioning the S&P 500, which of course is an American index, but you feel that something like an index fund that tracks one of those indices is the best place if you don't really want to spend the time researching individual stocks.
Yeah, 100%. Or just put in some of the big names like Amazon, Facebook, or something like that, which are solid companies. If you don't want to put that time and effort in, an S&P 500 index fund is really a perfect place to go to make your money go up over time.
So you mentioned the S&P rather than, say, the FTSE 100 or the FTSE All Share. Are you happier investing in American companies? Because pretty much all the ones you've mentioned so far are American or, foreign companies rather than British companies or the British indexes.
So in my eyes, the American stock market is when you've got all really the cool stocks. You don't have loads of massive technology companies on the UK stock market which are growing really fast. I think the UK stock market, they haven't fully recovered from that crash yet compared to the US. So if you may want to pick up some bargains in the UK stock market, it might be a good time to invest in the FTSE 100. But I think just in the US, you've got all these amazing tech companies which can grow quicker. So I'm more of an American investor.
So sounds to me like you find this investing lark fun. You're actually enjoying it. It's not a job of work for you.
No, I mean, if I didn't find it fun, I wouldn't be investing, I wouldn't have tried it and I wouldn't have put so much money into it, It was just so fun to me. One of my favourite stocks at the moment, which was Arcimoto, is an EV stock, which I bought at $6. And today it just hit $33 after 4 months of owning it. I've always been kind of fascinated with business. Never any kind of business idea which I could get into my mind, and I feel like this is really my passion, investing in the stock market.
Well, it's a great and very lucrative passion to have, and I bet your parents are pleased, because that should mean that you'll keep them in the way to which they'd like to become accustomed later on. I mean, if I were your parent, I'd be rubbing my hands going, oh yes, let's encourage this young man in all this, and we can have some later on. What are your plans? Because I'm guessing, obviously, you're enjoying school and you've got your schoolwork to do, but are you aiming to become a fund manager later on?
Originally, the dream was to become a fund manager. I did an interview with a fund manager once. You've got to manage all these other people's money, and you've all got to be quite conservative of what you invest in.
True.
So honestly, I think I just want to manage my own personal portfolio at the moment. I might one day, but maybe I can, make some money from YouTube or something, and kind of just save up all my money and put that into the stock market, and then, be able to retire pretty early, hopefully.
Yes.
But a hedge fund manager isn't my dream anymore. I think I just want to sit back when I'm 40 with my cash and maybe have kids or something.
Yeah, why not? Go crazy. As you say, if you're making that kind of money now, in 20 years' time, you will, I'm sure, be well on the way to early retirement. It sounds like the FIRE movement. You've probably heard of them. The FIRE movement are the ones who are aiming to retire really early, like, even in their 30s, and they're doing the sort of thing that you're doing and not spending it as much as they possibly can. So that sounds like a fun idea. Or possibly set up your own business. I mean, having watched so many different businesses, you're probably getting an idea of what makes a profitable business and what doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I always is kind of a pipe dream of mine is to work at a startup or something and be a co-founder. Put a lump sum money in and kind of go all in on startup. And like what Elon Musk did in a sense. You sleep on your office floor and then you make a boatload of money out of it down the line. Mm-hmm. So yeah, a startup would be a really cool job to work at, or maybe a co-founder or something.
Absolutely. And possibly later you could be one of those people that other people copy. There are a few platforms now like eToro and one or two others where you can actually copy successful traders, and they make commission out of everything that the people who follow them get. So that would be another way probably for you, somebody like you, to make money, I would think.
Yeah, it really well could be.
So let's give a plug to your YouTube and other social media channels. What's your YouTube channel called, and how can people go and follow it?
Just search up onto YouTube, Young Investor, or go on www.youtube.com/c/Young Investor.
Okay, so it's YouTube Young Investor, Twitter Young Investor. Any adults who would like a nice, easy way to learn how to invest in companies, how to read company reports, what the young investor, the young successful investor, Zach Cox, thinks of things, just go and follow him on Twitter, follow him on YouTube. I've done both of those things, and make yourself some money. Zach, thank you so much for coming along and giving us your wisdom. It's been really, really helpful.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Great. That's your lot from us today. My thanks to the amazing Zach Cox, the young investor, for giving us both ideas and a bit of a leg up into investing. Honestly, if a 12-year-old can do it, what's stopping you? Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and our handle is, of course, MoneyMagpie, and you can follow me on Twitter at Jasmine and on Instagram at Jasmine Birtles. If there's a particular subject you'd like us to cover on the podcast, just let us know on the MoneyMagpie message boards. We'd love to get your ideas. Today's episode was presented by me, Jasmine Birtles, and the producer was Jenny Birtles. The music was composed for MoneyMagpie by Thomas Hewitt Jones.